All right, here we go again. Good to be with everybody through the gift of technology. We're working through the Sermon on the Mount, and again, our desire is to look at Jesus in this block of teaching, Matthew 5, 6, 7, so that we can continue to think with his mind, love with his heart, and as Father Prentice, I think, put it recently at one of the discipleship group gatherings, just to really live out of his character. So this is where his character is revealed in a particular way. That was the Beatitudes. And now he's going to, as in the passage that we're going to look at right now, expand on this idea that we looked at last week. Unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So we said last week that one of the things that law can't do is it can't make me love. So only the Spirit does that. The Spirit moves in my heart in such a way so that I take on Jesus's filial obedience to the Father and grow in radical solidarity with my brothers and sisters. This is the vertical beam of the cross. This is the horizontal beam of the cross. That's the cross, right? So we're just going to look at Matthew 5, 21 to 26 right now and try to make a couple of insights about what Jesus is saying and then some really practical applications for it too. So he's going to do 6 teachings, if you will. The first one here is going to be about anger. Not that any of us struggle with anger, right? So, let's dive in, shall we? So this is what he says. You have heard that it was said to the men of old, you shall not kill. And whoever kills shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother shall be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother shall be liable to the council, and whoever says you fool shall be liable to the hell of fire. So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar, and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Make friends quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly, I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. So remember what Jesus is trying to do here. He's trying to say mere observance of the external is not enough. He's looking to bring about interior transformation. So what's the external? The external here is you shall not murder. That's the more literal translation, right? Not just kill. You shall not murder. You shall not do the intentional taking of innocent human life. So you have heard that it was said, you shall not murder. Who said that? Moses said that. Where did Moses get that? Oh, he was reading the 10 Commandments. So who said that? God said that. So here's Jesus. So here's this 30-year-old rabbi sitting on a hillside in Galilee going, I know you guys have heard that you should not murder, but I say to you, you say to me, who the heck are you? Right? So here's we kind of breeze by this, right? But it's worth just kind of putting ourselves in this place of being in the audience, hearing Jesus say these words and trying to deal with the tension that they must have been dealing with. This is a really helpful passage just to pray with in Scripture. So I'm 51 now. I think of like a young associate coming to me, a 30-year-old guy. He's just newly ordained. He knows nothing as far as I'm concerned. I've been doing this for 20 years. Like, I think I got this under control, right? I think I know theology. I know the church is teaching, whatever. And he starts saying something. I'm like, who do you think you are? You're 30. You know nothing. The people who are hearing Jesus, they had to be doing something similar, right? Like, who is this guy? And yet, the testimony of his life, the evidence of his kindness, his compassion, his love, his sinlessness. At one point, Jesus says, which one of you is going to convict me of sin? Imagine if I said that to you. Hey, who is you going to convict me of sin? Oh, okay, wait a minute, stop. Okay, like not all at once, right? So Jesus says that, nobody can say anything other than you're claiming to be God. So the Lord's making this radical claim to divinity here. Either that or he's just absolutely nuts or he's wicked. as C.S. Lewis would say. Those are the only three options: Lord, liar, lunatic. You have heard you shall not murder. I say to you. So Jesus isn't content with murder. He's trying to get at the attitudes that lead to murder. So we're on our way to Poland soon, a couple weeks. Some of you perhaps have been there. I've been several times. I was in Auschwitz for the first time in 1994. It was Holy Saturday, so the day in which the church says Jesus descends into hell. There was nobody in the camp. It was ice cold. So there's just maybe 15 of us. As soon as we got there, we almost immediately separated because there was the place is haunted, right? It's possessed. And you just feel hatred in the place. And all these spirits that are in the soil and in the ground and in the area. And you almost couldn't be close to somebody because you're just like, get away from me, don't be so close. It was really unnerving. And I remember walking through this camp and seeing all the things that they did and all the injustice and just being filled with not so much sorrow as really, hopefully a lot of it was righteous anger, but more than righteous anger, it was unrighteous anger too. I just wanted the people who did this to pay. And as I'm walking through this, after however long, I just felt like the Lord said to me, who do you think did this? Demons didn't do these things. Men did it. Men like you. Men with passion. Men with zeal. Where do you think that came from? It came from their thoughts. Thoughts like you have. Thoughts to get back at somebody who's hurt you. All the things that go on inside my head that I let go unchecked. Because everything begins with my thought. That's what leads to actions. And it was one of the most humbling moments of my life when I realized, okay, so my thoughts, Lord, are like these people's thoughts, except these people they played it out. I don't play it out, but I have the thoughts. And you probably have the thoughts. And Jesus is saying, you can't have those thoughts if you're going to be my disciple. That doesn't mean that things don't come into our mind, okay? So maybe a better way to put it, more accurate, would be when the thoughts come into my mind, the temptations come into my mind or into your mind, I can't dwell on them. So an image for me that's always been helpful is picture a train track. So I'm the station. Here's the train track. And trains go up and down the track. That's what they do. So those are like thoughts. And the station is my mind. So just like trains go flying past the station, thoughts go flying past my mind all the time. That's okay. I should expect that. Problems happen when the little man inside the station, he walks out and he stands on the track and he goes, hey, why don't you just stop here for a little while? We'll refuel, we'll check out the food car, we'll put some coal in, just chill. When I do that, now I'm entertaining the thought, now I'm in sin. That's what Jesus is getting at. So the thought comes through my mind, don't be scrupulous on that. But when the man comes out, or the woman comes out and goes, let's just linger over that one for a little while. Now I'm in sin. Whoever is angry with his brother shall be liable to judgment. So there's such a thing as righteous anger. St. Paul says, if you are angry, let it be without sin. So it's possible to be angry and not sin. God gets angry. So Jesus isn't saying that. Jesus is going, when I'm angry for no reason, or when my anger becomes sinful. In other words, when I want you to pay. So when I see somebody who has been the victim of injustice, I am supposed to be angry. Deacon Dave spoke recently about human trafficking. When I hear that, I'm supposed to get angry. Not angry and, I can't believe those people are doing that. I'm going to strangle you and kill you. Anger in the sense of, that's not just. Remember, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. That's not just. So I'm supposed to respond to that. But my response can't be, I want the people who did that to pay. Now I'm committing sin myself. Whoever's angry with his brother shall be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother shall be liable to the council. Whoever says, you fool, shall be liable to the hell of fire. Is it just me, or do we do this when we drive like every day? Idiot! Right? Isn't it amazing? Like, discipleship just goes out the window when you're behind the wheel. Praying the rosary. Hail Mary, full of grace. Moron, what are you doing? You know, it's kind of like you drive by and I'm praying. I'm fingering the beads, right? The beads are in my hand. I'm driving by and I make it a point and I can hear the Lord in my head say, don't turn your head. Don't do that. Don't look. But I do it anyway. I'm like, who is this moron who just cut me off? That's the word that Jesus uses here. Whoever says you fool, the Greek word is the word for moron. Fool's like the ultimate insult you can say to somebody in the Old Testament. Somebody who just doesn't know. The antithesis would be the wise person, someone with wisdom. This is the moron. Jesus says, if I think that way, what's he saying? I'm liable to the hell of fire. Wait, whoa, you gotta be kidding. No, apparently not. See, what he's saying is there's grace for me and there's grace for you to, as I'm fingering the beads, even as the person who cut me off is on my right, to not turn my head. To just keep going. But instead what do? I'm fighting going, I just want to get a glimpse of the idiot who would be so stupid to cut me off right now. Well, that was my concupiscence. That was my sinfulness. I'm doing exactly what he said there, or at least potentially so. This is a hard word, people, right? I mean, we often focus on lust, and Jesus is going to get to that next week. But anger is a massive challenge, right? I mean, how dare you not treat me the way I deserve to be treated? That's what's at the root of anger, oftentimes. I deserve better than that. Well, maybe so, but actually I probably deserve worse. You know, the root of so many of my problems is I just take myself too seriously, and you probably do too. I'm at fault, the way I think Thomas à Kempis said it, in not finding fault with myself. The reality is, you should pick me to shreds. I'm one really broken man, and you're broken men and women, and we just take ourselves too seriously. Oftentimes, that's at the root of our anger. So this is a tough word, and the Lord is holding me to a high standard. He's calling me on to greatness. He's calling me on to excellence. He's calling me on to real freedom, and this is attainable for me by His grace. It's possible for me to let the thought just keep going down the track and to not have the little man come out and entertain it. And a key stepping stone for a lot of us is just to be aware of the thoughts as they're coming, to acknowledge we have them, and then just to let them go. Like, okay, I acknowledge, Lord, like I like to entertain those thoughts. And I got to be willing to let that go. I got to kill it. I got to kill that desire to satisfy that part of me that wants to think, I just wish I could give it to you every once in a while. I hope that makes sense. It's I got to tell you, it's really convicting and challenging even just to talk about right here. So if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. This would be really, here's what I would love to see at Mass on Sunday. This would be very impractical. I'm not suggesting we do it because it would make for a really challenging logistic endeavor. But at the sign of peace, wouldn't it be something if we headed immediately to the person who we know we're not right with in the parish and just said, peace. Someone came up to me not too long ago and did that. It meant the world. Instead, we turn this into kind of a casual, hey, peace out. Now, the Lord's saying, before you go and bring your gift to the altar, that's the gifts that we're bringing here at Mass. Huh? I can't properly either offer that to the Lord or let alone receive it back from him in the gift that is the Eucharist if I'm not right with my brother or my sister. I just can't. It's a charade. It's a fraud. Make friends quickly with your accuser while you're going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly, I say to you, you will never get out till you have paid the last penny. As I'm praying with this, the passage that came to mind that I might just encourage us to maybe look at in our discussion is Matthew 18, verses 21 to 35. This is where Peter comes to Jesus and says, Lord, how often do I have to forgive my brother? Like 7 times? And Jesus says, no, not 7 times, Peter, 70 times 7. In other words, stop counting. But isn't that what we do in our relationships and marriages and families and friendships? We keep score. And Jesus says, you can't keep score. You can't keep score in a marriage. You can't keep score in friendship. You can't keep score in parish life. You just can't keep score. God does not keep score on my life or on yours. Blessed be he. And then he tells this incredible parable, which is so watered down, unfortunately, in our translation, about the kingdom is compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. So he calls him this first person who, in our lectionary, says owed him a huge amount. But it's not what it says. It says he owed him 10,000 talents, which is why we translated it to a huge amount, because what the heck is 10,000 talents, right? So 10,000 talents is the largest number and the largest monetary unit of Jesus' day. It's the equivalent of 100 million days' pay. You used to get a daily wage back then. It was called a denarius. 10,000 talents is 100 million denarii. That works out to be something like 273,000 years of pay. You're not going to live that long. That's what Jesus uses as the image to help me understand what I owe God. And the king calls me in and says, pay me what you owe me. And the man falls down and looks at the king and says, give me time and I'll pay you back, which is not possible. You're not going to live that long. And the king looks at the man and he says, you know what? Don't worry about that. Let's just forget the whole thing. What would your response be? Whoa. 273,000 years pay. Huh, I'm free, right? That's what the king does. The man leaves, runs into a man who owes him, we translate it now as a much smaller amount. Now, 100 days or 100 denarii, 100 days pay, 3 months pay. It says, pay me what you owe me. And the man falls down, does the exact same thing as the first man. Says, just give me time, I'll pay you back, which in his case, it's possible, right? And the man says, no. And he throws him into jail, which is how they used to pay back debts back then. And the king finds out about it. And he pulls the first man in. And he sits him down and he says, you wicked servant, I forgave you your whole debt. How much more should you have forgiven your fellow servant? It's a great passage just to pray with, to talk about, to maybe talk a little bit about, Lord, how is it that we have come to understand what you have forgiven us? Because as we move into a deeper and more profound understanding of what God has forgiven us, the result is supposed to be not only gratitude to God, but then mercy for others. Not that we still don't get righteously angry, but that we don't become sinfully angry. This would be some good discussion, like what have we found to be helpful in learning to grow in gratitude for the cross and for what it is that Jesus has done for us. Another thing that might best be helpful, so I'm always thinking about, it's not enough to learn what not to do. So Jesus says, don't be angry or call your brother fool, but what should I do? And for me, a good exercise is, especially with regards to speech, it's 2 things. Lots of us get into gossip or discussions about things that have to do with other people. We just like to do that. And undoubtedly, some of us, even maybe in our discipleship group, do that. A good question to start to ask yourself, first of all, when you're about to say something, is, why am I going to say this? then who needs to know this? Or if somebody says something to you, when they start saying it, just ask them, why do you tell me this? Why do I need to know this? Pope Benedict used to really call us on to just kind of fraternal correction. And one of the ways we can really helpfully correct each other is in our speech. Most of us sin most often with our mouth, with our speech. Jesus is trying to get at the root of that right now. So we can call each other on by just going, why do I need to know that? But not just that, go out of the way of kind of like flexing the virtue that attacks the vice. So if the vice is tearing others down or saying negative things, the virtue is building them up, encouraging people, honoring people. So maybe a practical thing to consider doing this week is every day go out of our way to find just one person in our lives, preferably in our home. Maybe it's our husband, our wife, our child, our son, our daughter, whatever it is. What can I say, Lord, to build them up, to honor them, to encourage them? That way I'm using the gift that God gave me of speech for one of the purposes that he gave me, which is to inflate somebody in a positive way, to encourage them, to breathe life into them, to give them hope, to give them a sense of worth and value. Tough words from Jesus. The grace is there. And let's be honest, right? I don't want to be controlled by anger. Jesus uses, not in this chapter here, but later in the Gospel of Matthew, one word to describe his character. And the one word is meek. And meek means strength under control. It's the word for using a breaking a wild horse. So Jesus is the pure power of God. But everything he does out of love. Sometimes it's worth just saying to the Lord, especially with regards to our speech, like, Lord, here's the reins of my mouth. Just meek me. Let everything I do today be done out of love, be done out of kindness, be done out of compassion. Even if I have to correct somebody, let me do it out of love. It's going to be a good week for us to try to grow in some new habits, perhaps, of how we speak and how we think about others. Let's ask the Lord to just examine our minds for us, show us those people, perhaps especially, that we struggle with. Let's get to work, ask him to help us to think with his mind so we can love with his heart. God bless.